thank you. This is the grand finale. This is where the wit and wisdom of my panelists here for this special final panel for the day before we head off to the villa. It's entitled Leading in Uncertain Times. I think it's fair to say these are uncertain times and fast-changing times. To a large extent, I think, although COVID was a very challenging time, it was actually possibly, in my lifetime, the most certain time I've ever lived through. Everybody was presented pretty much with the same challenge, stuck at home, on Zoom or Teams, if they're unlucky, and trying to deal with the situation as it happened. So we're all fairly synchronized. And I don't know about you guys, but it got to kind of March time, and it's kind of seems since then the world's gone really chaotic, really quickly. It's actually quite stressful. We don't know where things are going, and as I think leaders are constantly challenged, and we are generally as people to adapt all of the time. So this session we're going to talk around that kind of big overarching issue of constant change and so on. But I'm delighted to be joined by Serkan, Ceyhan from Fujifilm Inc. Solutions Group, Keith McMurtrie from Tharstern Software, and we have Matthieu Carni from Siegwerk, and Peter Bergstein from Bergstein. So we're going to have a good chat here, and I'm going to kick off by saying, right, how the hell do we lead? It's all so difficult. You're Keith. I'm going to start with you. You're a leader of a software business, and as such, what kind of things are you finding that's having an impact that's enabling you to effectively lead your business going forward?
Well, yeah, so great that we're the only people in the way between you and the drinks reception. So if you want us to bring the discussion short, that's fine.
Very short.
Very short. Hasn't there been some really good topics today? And they've all pretty much been aligned. Everybody's been talking about the same thing. And I felt that all the things I was going to talk about, everyone's already talked about them. But I was thinking about them first. So just remember that. But one of the things that the ladies were talking about earlier, I think is absolutely pivotal to leading in the future. And that is the one of creating sort of this incredible culture. Because, it's one of the things that we have within our control. When we have companies that can buy the same kit and the same materials, and they can create the same products and they're selling to the same market, what differentiates you from the competition? And it's how you engage and how you as a business operate. So I think creating culture, it's a really hard thing though to actually describe. You touched on loads of aspects today, and I wanted to jump in. I agreed with pretty much every one of them. You talked about employee engagement. And what is that? What is employee engagement? Well, employee engagement is the emotional buy-in by an employee with the organisation's mission and its goals. It's sort of an emotional connection with it. It means that they will go that extra mile. Okay, so they know why, they know what the raison d'etre is of the business. And there's all different metrics to measure in that situation. And somebody in an earlier presentation talked about the benefits of employee engagement, and they rushed through it very, very quickly. And we do know that employee retention, we do know that productivity is important, absenteeism is improved. And there's lots of stats out there. One of the ones that I always thought was really interesting is with employee engagement, and Amanda touched on the type of things that we do, is when you are presenting yourself and the type of culture you have to the outside world, you see a huge increase in the number of applications for jobs. The stats that I read before said 100% increase. Now, we went through that, and we had over 1,000% increase on unsolicited jobs when we implemented our employee engagement program, from hardly any to people applying from all over the world because they'd seen us on social media. So I think culture is a really important aspect. And for us, because we'd already started down this route, it meant that we were able to navigate that sort of COVID moment when the mandate came and said, hey, everybody, go home. We were able to navigate that. I think there are so many benefits to introducing an engaged culture.
So with that in mind, we listened to obviously the Women in Print and some of the advantages of female leadership. And there is a thing called kind of toxic masculinity, and where the kind of male type leadership, I guess we kind of think leadership and think we have to be right, we have to be dominant, we have to be the ones that are loudest in meetings and so on. Explain a bit, Serkan, if introduce you. Thank you, Keith. That was a great thing to start on with. Culture is. How do you create a culture? Say you think you have a problem, or not a problem, or a challenge. What is it you would do as a leader, or do with your team throughout COVID and going forward, really, to continue to meet expectations and adapt?
Well, good question. Having said that, firstly, I'm very proud that I can claim to say that half of my staff is female and half is male. So that is something that I very much endorse.
Wow. Well
and I joined Fujifilm not fully yet a year ago. And that was quite something new for me. I always had that feeling that we're losing human capital in the roles, especially in this business, in this market. It's quite a tough turf for lady professionals really to get what they deserve. So that was one thing that I could luckily tick off, because that was quite of a diversity pool that was provided to me right from the beginning and the start. So that was very positive. Talking about culture, I truly believe that the business culture itself is something absolutely key. It draws new talents, it maintains existing talents, and it really somehow triggers, I strongly believe, the good things of the people, right? So we can throw we heard so many buzzwords today, and I can just check off all of them. I think Fraser did a very good summary right in the morning, and I thought like we can just call it a day and just go home, right? Or just go right away for the beer session, but it was too early, I believe. I think that the topic of culture is in itself changing these days as well. And we could stand here as leaders and just, be very smart with the theories that we know and just talk forever, quoting books and stuff. But I think what we defined as culture until now, especially the last 3 years with all of the things that are happening globally, I think we as leaders are undergoing a change as well. And I think we have to be open to that and really honest to ourselves that we don't know best. So I would be sitting here and honestly saying that I am currently also developing myself with everything that I have somehow come across. And I think that is sometimes lost in these leadership discussions. We're all humans. We've got titles that just declare us by the title to be on top of a group of people. And that puts a lot of responsibilities as a parent, privately, as well as being responsible for a team. So yes, I strongly believe that culture in itself is something very important. How to really design or drive culture to really settle down is quite a big task, to be honest with you. And I mean, I can only grasp certain aspects around it, and there are so many factors that are just contributing to defining. And culture is also something dynamic. I can't, put culture on paper and then I say, this we value, this we value, this we value, and then just promote it. It's something you live, right? And, to really boil it down a little bit to a short feedback, I think authenticity is something that is coming more and more to the surface in the things that I'm doing. Before, everything was pretty much determined, how you promote your values and your culture. And talking about walking the talk, right? I think there are only a handful of companies worldwide that can really claim to say that, I'm defining my culture, and that's how we live. But I truly believe it's a dynamic thing, and it's not easy to wrap up around a theoretical definition. I strongly believe in authenticity. Honesty is something that was one of my words this morning. Integrity. I'm shifting, and as I can only speak for myself, but I'm shifting from these classical hard facts around culture, profitable growth. That's all the important aspects, and I think nobody has to tell us that every day, right? That's why we are here, and that's what we're doing, why we're doing it. But I think I'm shifting now my focus more and more into the soft factors, and that's really the people, how can I really engage them? How can I get the honesty? And as a result, you get paid back quite highly. I strongly believe in that.
Very good.
Yeah.
I mean, quite interesting. You said that previously, it's sort of like you say the buzzwords. The marketing department might put all this into a document and then tell the company what the culture is, but actually it's a lot more than that.
Comes from the top.
Sorry?
Comes from the top.
Yeah, it has to come from the top, not the marketing department.
Vulnerability. That was something that was also presented today, and I think that's also something very key. Vulnerability. We're human. I mean, come on. You know, we've got good days and we've got bad days. You know, we got to face this fact and deal with it, right? So that was coming from you, I think, and that was spot on. That was
and being humble, right, and saying I don't know the answers.
Absolutely.
All of them, not all of them.
No.
Peter.
Yes.
You're the
Sir.
your business is called after you, Peter Bergstein.
Yes.
Right. So the culture in your business. I mean, you've talked a lot with your very good presentation about innovation and a lot of the work you've done with technology. How do you get these great ideas? Is the culture does the ideas come from you, or is it within your team? Obviously,
yes, it's only me. It's only me. Yes, and the rest is just no, it's not. You know, I have a team of very young people, and for example, if we have an interview for new people, we always show them everything and have a one day that they should work with us together in the team to see how they feel. And actually, the feeling you can get when you are in this industrial market, it should be coming here. It's not about, really not always about education, about what you do, how many experience you have for so many years, whatever. It's, you need to feel it. We just hired a girl on a mechanical engineer, which was the first one, and she adapts very well. She saw the machine and she was really into it, you know, and that's what we would like to have for our kind of people. Because if we have a new project, which we have right now, we're sitting with the team, and then it's like, okay, tell me. I'm getting older, and I love to learn from younger people who have young and new ideas, even if they're maybe not good or whatever. Just throw them on the table and let's see where we come.
Yeah. So you foster a culture of creativity. You allow people to have ideas, and like you say, not all of them are great, but
we have a very flat structure in the company.
Yeah, that's quite a Dutch thing, isn't it, to have that kind of approach?
We shout a lot, but
yeah, I'm sure. So that's interesting to hear. So moving slightly on from perhaps culture and so on. Obviously, there's a number of macro trends we've heard of today and we've listened to and so on. Some of which have accelerated over the last 2 years and so on. Are there, Matthieu, I want to introduce you to this really. Some of the macro trends out there, I mean, are they putting stress on the business as a leader within the business, or is it giving you guys, or Siegwerk, some opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, Siegwerk is a main company which is focusing on packaging, and we heard a lot about packaging today. Certainly, what was visible, you know, during the crisis is that packaging industry is incredibly resilient. So you can cut on cars on vacation. I mean, it's not pleasant, you know. You can cut on a lot of things, but you cannot really cut on food, you know. And there is a basic problem. We have seen today that we are close to 8 billion, 9 billion. I don't know. I mean, now we have probably 1 million more already. So yes, so it's getting crazy. And we know that the curve will certainly flatten at a certain point, but it's still not there. And we have this you know, massive issue upcoming, which is we need to feed the population. We need to feed 9 billion people, and we still need to, let's say, create an environment which is sustainable. And that's today a question that we have not been able to answer as human, you know. And packaging is playing a key role. So yeah, I mean, we cannot continue to use massively plastic in a linear way and throw everything in the sea, you know, like the good old time. That's not possible. That's not socially acceptable anymore. Circular economy is certainly the way. But it's I mean, the challenges are huge because paper can play a role. Will certainly not replace completely plastic. Plastic has some, let's say, beautiful feature to preserve the food, and preserving the food is important to feed the people. So I think we have, you know, very interesting, very challenging time ahead. We went through very, let's say, bumpy road over the last 2 years. We know that we're in a very resilient industry, but I think, I mean, frankly speaking, I think the worst challenges are still to come. And we know that, I mean, somehow we went through the COVID, now we have a war in Europe, and something else will happen, in the coming 2-3 years. And anyway, if not a major spot crisis is happening, the global warming, and the situation we have will be there. And packaging is a key thing, because feeding the people, it's one of the basics you need to tick.
Absolutely, yeah. To be able to be humane. It was nice to hear some of the sessions earlier about people helping other people less fortunate. So long may that continue. With the fast-changing world we live in, obviously that challenges business people and everybody to become continually adaptable. I call it rapid adaptation. You're kind of 1 minute, we found it with virtual shows were all the rage, or virtual events, and then they suddenly just fallen off a cliff. So it's changing very quickly. Serkan, in your view, to what extent is investment and innovation important when it comes to being a successfully adaptable business from your perspective as a leader?
Well, probably I have people throwing bottles at me if I say it's not important, right? So it's absolutely important. How to break that down into simple words? I mean, at the end of the day, it's to stand still is death, right? So, and that is inevitably connected to that, right? So you have to really be progressive and looking into the future and constantly challenge yourself, your products you're offering. What are the new trends, as Matthieu also pointed out? And in order to really stay on the time expectations, you have to have a very strong focus in that technology and innovation. And I'm afraid that there is a very steep inclining curve to it, that it becomes faster and faster and faster, and the need becomes even more critical and critical going forward. Considering all of these, let's say, external other factors contributing to it, we need to change the way we live, we think, in terms of waste and in terms of our impact to the nature and our social impact, that is something that I find is getting a little bit less stake in these discussions. And I'm afraid that this environmental drive is a little bit diminishing the social relevance of course, everything we do as companies. And I think that pretty much covers everything into innovation and technology. So everything that we really drive in cutting edge technologies to be developed in the future, to maintain the highest level of innovation will definitely, or should definitely, focus in overcoming all of these challenges ahead of us. But it's happening very fast right now. And I have the feeling that there has been a lot of talking for years. Now we're coming to a point where it really starts hurting, right? And we're a little bit running around like headless chickens. That's at least what I can say very bluntly. But I think also when it comes to technology and innovation, these new aspects, these trends and the global situation have to be also onboarded and to be considered. And I think that wasn't really the case before. Before it was maybe more purely business driven. And let's be honest, I mean, at the end of the day, we all get paid in order to generate a return to it for our companies, whether we are employees or whether we own companies. There should be a materialistic return to it.
Gives you new ideas as well.
Absolutely.
In a different area.
Absolutely. And it is supported. I mean, and it is influenced by regulations, regional differences, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's very key, actually, to really bring it down to the point.
Can I sort of jump in and give a different, sort of, not a different view, but a slightly sideways view that technological innovation is one thing, and as a race, we have been continually coming up with new things for centuries and centuries and centuries. This is not a new thing. We're always doing that. But you said about, as a leader, being able to be agile in your organization. And that's the way your organization runs, not just about the technology that you are developing. And I think that a lot of companies are starting to look at maybe the traditional way in which their business is structured isn't good for the future. You mentioned there you have a very sort of flat, and that's actually that's a modern sort of view, isn't it? I've been learning more about things like sort of a concept called tribes, squads, and chapters, which you're smiling, so you've obviously heard of that. And now that gives more autonomy You can have a squad is a small collection of people working on, let's say, on a particular project, and you might have marketing in there, you might have product, you might have sales, innovation. You have all sorts of different people in that particular squad, and then a tribe is a collection of squads that sort of work together. Now they have autonomy to do whatever they need to do, and then the chapter leaders they're the ones that make sure that they're aligned with the vision. So let me give you an example of how that might work. For our business, we're producing software. We've got existing clients and we've got new clients. Now, product innovation and the business activity is often very different to attract new clients than it is to retain and to nurture existing clients. And yet, it's the same sort of people within the business that you use. So by flattening them and creating these small sort of micro teams, you can say, right, you're in charge of looking after the existing team. You're still generating new product, but as is the new business people. But generally, new business has got a different demand from your product than existing business. Existing business wants you to go deeper into your product, whereas new business, you tend to go wider and to cover and to do more to attract those, to scoop up more potential clients. Once you've got them, they're more about the depth, about the detail that can go into it. So you've got the same types of people, but they operate in two different squads. So we need to innovate within the way we run our businesses, not just the technology that we innovate, because I think as human beings we will continue to innovate. It's in our DNA.
And with that in mind, I mean, I guess the investment you're having there is very much going deep into developing the right people to do the right roles, and to allow them to have autonomy. I guess one of the problems that we've all faced and we're hearing of a lot is supply chain, isn't it? And you have a great team, you're getting new business. Well, what if you can't actually supply that new business? How can technology help that kind of issue? It's a tough one, isn't it? Because demand's high, but we don't always have the right products at hand to be able to...
You need to become very creative.
Yeah.
That's what the only thing that we can do, like print boards and everything which is involved, and we make something new, although it costs more, but it needs to be sufficient. You cannot allow yourself to order huge amounts of products to keep them in stock only for yourself. We're just a small company. Right. But on the other hand, you need to supply, we have 4 more huge printers to build, and I would like to deliver as well. Because at the end, you would like to get your money, and you would like to have a company that's driven by sales, and not like, okay, sorry, we cannot deliver, that's it. But it's a huge problem at this moment. For us, it is.
So you're creative in solving them. I guess communication must be pretty key with customers. Is that something you find that you have
Customer
to kind of
suppliers
collaborate,
as well? Yes.
Yeah. You kind of have to go, look, this is the situation.
Yes.
What used to cost €4 is now €300.
Yes.
And
it's an open discussion I have with the customer, and with one customer, it's great, it's fine, it's working. And the other says, no, we signed a contract and that's it. More or less, fuck off, but then that's it. But if you don't open the discussion, you never know that you will be able to talk about it. And the other customer says, yeah, well, we got the same issues as well. I feel with you, blah, blah, blah. But as long as you can get the deadline and the cost a little bit more, that's also something like this. You can wait for another 4 months until the product comes in, and then you deliver, which he does not like, or we need to pay a little bit more, and you get delivery in time.
Maybe just to add to that, I mean, that is not just affecting as a service and product supplying industry. It's affecting us, right? I mean, if you want to buy a car today,
yes.
If you want to buy a German car today, probably you've got a waiting time of minimum 1 year, right? And whereas just 1 year ago, they would be putting all the promotion possible to just sell off their cars, right? So I think there is also an educational process going through the whole society right now. So I think the people were just so used to faster, 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 faster in terms of lead time, just in time, just be on spot. And all of that perfect fragile construct is being now tested, right? And we have to admit we don't have that full control. So I think it's a combination of our customers having to adapt, their customers having to adapt, who we are again, right? The end customers. So I think in the next years there will be a massive change in the globalization itself. I think there will be a kind of a deglobalization process in terms of for critical raw material and input materials. Semiconductor, I'm sure, we're producing inks, so we're having problems on the chemical side, but if I consider, all of these very sophisticated cutting edge technology in print presses, it's quite a challenge really to really obtain all of the raw materials you need. So I think it goes hand in hand. I think we're ahead of stormy times the next couple of years because of that educational process. But we have to admit that at the end of the day, there's no other way around than to somehow anticipate and learn from that process. And having said that, today we also heard about the price topic, right? So there was a constant drive over the last decades, lower price, lower price, lower price, lower price, lower price, until you basically were not earning much anymore, right? So I think there will be a kind of a cross development on a graph, if you look at a graph. I'm very convinced of that. But it will be hard times for us to overcome that, right? And it will be on us to educate our customers as well.
Yeah, but it's more than our customers. It's a global issue because we have been addicted to cheap product, fast delivery, and now if you cannot order something online and get it the day after, you thought, how it is possible. So I think stepping back will be difficult, and I hardly believe that it will be based on the goodwill of the people. You will have to, let's say, find some blockage, where there are no other around. We are human beings, and by nature we are easily addicted to easy things, So if it's getting easier, cheaper, it's. But I think you mentioned something quite interesting. If I look the panel, here, your name is Bergstein and you are running Bergstein company. So you are really, from all of us, I think you are really the one putting, your pocket money in the company, and when you make, innovation. So and we know that innovation, it's a lot about money, but it's not only that. You need to have a certain vision, how to drive that. So you as a small to mid-sized company, how based on which, let's say, things do you make a judgment if you want to take this innovation? What is a little bit your internal process?
For getting new development started, that's what you mean?
Yes.
Actually, looking at the market, talk to a lot of people, knowing what's going on. We heard it in some interviews as well, that as long as you talk with your customers, you can hear a lot. A sales guy normally is like blah, 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 and how good we are, that's what I did as well, blah, presenting my machine and how good it is. But actually, you should go on the other way. And this is nothing new. But if you really look at where are we looking at, what does the customer wants to be in 5 years, you can learn a lot. And we're not specialized in specific market segments, but we see that if we go only into one market segment, we already can do a lot. But as a small company, we would like to grow very slowly and do it good, instead of having a lot of money in a few months, and it doesn't bring you anything. We have seen in the industrial market that since, how long do we have the imprint? It's about
2014 ran the first time.
Yeah, that's the first time. How many people have come and how many people have go in our industry? And we're still there. So that gives us an idea that we're doing something good. And listening to customers gives you lots of new ideas. And then sharing that with your team. And sometimes, I have to say, we fail as well. Sometimes you try to go into a certain area, and which is the wrong area. But okay, you make mistakes, you learn about it, and then you continue and grow.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying there is listening more than... I sort of think of myself and what we've done, the best stuff we've done is when we've listened to people and discovered a problem and then tried to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But when we thought we've had a great idea, we're convinced it's a great idea, then that didn't work as well. So that's great.
Very interesting point, because usually we are very good. We always try to prepare an answer, and we are not always very listener. As I think it's a kind of, let's say, industry. We all want to shine and be, in the first position.
You already try telling here how many millions you make, how many people you have, how many distribution channels you have over there.
Yeah.
So, what do you know about me?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in your amount of money. You should be interested in what I need.
Yeah.
And that's the trick to get it.
So with all these supply chain problems we're talking about, Keith, being a software guru, is this your time to shine? Are you solving all these problems with software? Because you don't have a supply problem.
Do you think we can solve problems with software in the supply chain? I think that the world has moved more and more towards people wanting instant gratification. They want things now. So you said about maybe we can go back. And you said, no, I don't think we will go back. And I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a problem. I don't think it's a problem that software can solve per se, not in supply chain. I think technology can certainly help you manage and control your components of a print job, and to attempt to plan ahead a little more. I went to visit some clients in the US a few weeks ago, and they were talking 90 and 120 days to get hold of rolls of paper. 90 to 120 days. I mean, how does a business run when they've got to wait that long to actually get hold of, to produce a job for their clients? Because their clients are not particularly understanding. No. They just say, well, that's not my problem. Yeah. So, as a software product, maybe it's a time to try and standardize more. We talked about, it's a technology day, automation, and automation is like it's a good step towards standardization of the products that you produce, and that means also simplification, because when you've just got a person doing it, they can adapt and react and so on. But when it's automated, you need to have a set of rules in place, and that normally means making them simple. So if you simplify the products and simplify the options to your clients, then maybe you can manage your way through this particular supply chain pandemic that we've actually got ourselves into at the moment.
Maybe I have to correct me very quickly. I didn't say we're going back. Things will be different.
Yes, you did.
No, I said it's going to be completely
everything
different.
is recorded, yes.
Yeah. Can you re-roll the tape?
Yeah, please cut that right there.
Clearly, skipping into the final kind of straight, if you will. We're not a diverse industry, are we? Really, printing, as Chris was saying. We've interviewed for our podcast probably 100 people, and you kind of go, oh, how did you get into print? Nobody says, I wanted to get into print, as you said, and nobody put their hand up earlier. No one at all. Everyone responds like it's interesting that they didn't, it's like, well, everyone here isn't. And then you see images of middle-aged, with all due respect, we're middle-aged men, but you see images of leaders. There was a show that happened recently, and they're all opening the show, and they're middle-aged men. And how the hell are we going to inspire women and Gen Z generation to join this when they see people that look like their dad? And it's like not cool to do what your dad does necessarily. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do to change that?
I think the previous panel touched on a lot of this. We talked about this employee engagement. It's absolutely pivotal. You have to send out that positive message. Somebody said we need to, I think it was you, Holly, said about making the industry sexy. Yeah? That's what we need to do. We need to make it sexy because it is sexy. It's cool. The technology that we're dealing with is some of the best technology in the world, and we have to try and present that. And we might not be the right people to actually try and present that because we have no idea.
But we're not sexy, is that what you're saying?
We're definitely not sexy. We're definitely not sexy. No, we're not the right people to present.
You are, Marcus. You are.
Well, speak for yourself. I have a different
in your sexy black T-shirt, you. you know, if you think about it, we've got this sort of little bit of a paradox. We need to attract young people into the industry because the young people will help us attract more young people. Okay, because they understand technology. I heard a really interesting presentation about the different types of technology, and there actually, believe it or not, there are only 3 types of technology. Okay, so there's all the technology that existed when you were born, which is a bit. There's all the technology that was created after you were born, up to about the age of 30, 35, which is, and then there's all the technology that was created after you were 35 onwards, which is like, I don't understand it. I don't really want to understand it. I don't care about it. It doesn't make sense. And somebody referred to it earlier as the TikTok, right? The TikTok. Now that, perfect. You know, the TikTok. That shows you don't know what it is, the TikTok. But I bet, you know, how could I describe Instagram to someone? No, I couldn't. I'd say I don't understand it. I don't like it. And I think that's the problem we face, that we need people to come in who understand the sexy parts of our business so that they can then talk about that, and they can through social media and all the TikToks and everything, that becomes your company CV. Because don't think, you know, you're interviewing one of these Gen Zs or millennials when they've already made their mind up whether they think you're a cool company to come and work for. And if they do come for an interview or a Zoom interview, because let's face it, they're not going to come for an interview, they're interviewing you. I did one the other week with a young lad in North America, and I actually said that to him, and he actually accepted. He said, "Yes, that's exactly why I'm here, is to interview you to find out if I want to work for you, not if you're going to give me a job." Because, you know, they've already made their mind up, just like customers have already made their mind up, you know, quite a way along their buying journey that they want to buy from you. The people in the industry are younger, more diverse people. They're the same. They've already made most of their mind up before they went to apply for the job.
But still, we have a lot of old guys in the industry, and that makes it very hard. You know,
it is very hard.
That brings the industry down to be a non-sexy industry.
Yeah, because you have a transition in generation. I mean, I think the new generation, which will, let's say, be in the print industry in the future, they are very different, and they have different expectations.
I'll give you an example. We were at the exhibition, the End Print in Milan, and we had a 3D mask where you could you take your glasses on, and then you took up whatever that thing was, and so you could travel through our machine. And all the young guys, okay, cool, okay, let's do it. And all the older guys, no, I got glasses. Oh no, this is not for me. This is only for the young guys. So that's already an example that shows that the old people are okay. No, we've done this already for 20 years in offset, in pad printing, and screen printing. We got the machines. It's already paid off. And if they need the new one, it will be exactly the same who does the same job. Instead of digital, to my perspective, it's like you need to go this. You need to go a totally different area. And that's a different perception, and that's hard to get into the market.
I totally agree with you. I mean, if you come off university and you've studied marketing, you only know the classical big names in the market. You don't know about all of these little champions, you know, because you're just not engaging with them. And looking at the experts that I've been talking here today, there is a very wide foundation of experience behind. You know, you can't become a digital inkjet expert as such, right? So they've gone through 20 years of school and having different positions that they have pretty much successfully overcome to come to that point to understand the systematic complexity of what we're doing in our business, right? And that is, and if you start talking as such, telling a young person, you lost them already.
Yeah.
You got to invest 20 years, and if you do that 20 years, you can be a super technical expert, and you can integrate all of that complexity. That's going to be difficult. So I think we have to focus on how to overcome and utilize, let's say, the simplification of how to attract these youngsters and the young talents. Honestly, I mean, my brother-in-law, 21 years old, and he falls asleep. 10 minutes if I try to explain the business.
No,
right?
good point. I mean, storytelling is something the industry does not do well enough. And the tools for storytelling are TikTok or the TikTok or Instagram, whatever.
Or the Instagram.
Or the Instagram, yeah, exactly. To get better at storytelling. And obviously at Futurement we can help people get their story across.
We can start doing a TikTok later on.
Yes, certainly.
Has anyone got any questions for the panel before I ask them to give some final thoughts.
It's probably how long before we get to the villa.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Better ask after 2 beers, then I think.
Any questions? Any final thoughts from the panel? Because we're talking about leading in uncertain times, and if sort of any, you've given some great thoughts and advice, but I guess from my perspective, the key thing is learning. Is don't think you're an expert. Once you think you're an expert, you're restricted. And while there is always a place for experts, I actually think leadership, the key to leadership is actually not being an expert. Mm-hmm. And you said about vulnerability, being humble, having people in your team that are better than you at things.
You have experience, but you should not be the expert.
No.
I think something I learned a while ago now was, as the leader, and I think Rosie sort of mentioned a similar thing actually, because I think we talk about these voices, and you're probably very similar to me, where you'll get involved and you'll go in and you'll get things done and you'll have total disregard for process and get things sorted, but all be carnage behind you. And I learned that I actually asked all my senior leadership team, I sat them round the table and said, right, I want you to tell me things that you want me to stop doing, start doing, and then continue doing. And the stop doing was stop getting involved, right? That's what they said, keep out. And I said, well, don't ask me then. So then I realised I did need to keep out. And what that does is it allows you to sort of take that helicopter view over your business and to coin a phrase, to work on your business and not in your business. And that, when you do that, you can see lots of little areas for improvement. You can start to see how your business is presented to the outside world. Yes, build a culture internally, but then continue with that culture. Earlier, somebody mentioned Apple and said, oh, this is not an Apple presentation, but it's something they do very, very well. They don't say, hey, we make really cool computers. What they want to do is empower the individual to do great things. And we just happen to make really cool computers as well.
And they've got pretty cool products.
And they've got very cool products, but that's not what they start with. And so you buy into the Apple culture, and it says something about who you are. So I think as leaders, if you're able to sort of helicopter above that and look at your business in a non-distracted way, I think you can make a difference.
Yeah, and that's purpose, isn't it?
Clear
clarity
purpose.
over your purpose. Anything else, guys, before we
No, let's go
up?
for beer.
Let's go for beer.
All right. Okay.
Thanks so much, Peter, Matthieu,
you.
Keith, and Serkan.
Thank you.
That's Leading in Uncertain Times, and thank you for joining us for it. And join us for a beer now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.